Hello and welcome to Culture Vultures. Now, you know what I'm very excited about today because joining us on the show will be singer and songwriter Hil Street Soul. Before we catch up with Hilary, Tricia Wombell and Natalie McLeod are here with some more book and theatre reviews. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hi, Tricia.
Hi there. Hi.
We're going to start off with theatre today, aren't we?
Yeah, it's good I said hello in a musical sort of rendition.
Ah, because it's a musical, is it?
Yeah. It's two musicals that I'm going to be looking at. The first one is The Lion King, and that's showing at the Lyceum Theatre. This has been showing.
Is it called the Lyceum or the Lyceum?
Lyceum. Some people say Lyceum, some people say Lyceum.
Interesting.
But I like Lyceum.
Okay.
But yeah. So it's basically it's been showing there for 15 years.
Wow.
So it's since October 1999. So it's spectacular. It's if you like the Disney animated film of The Lion King, you're gonna definitely love this. Like visually, how they capture it on stage. With the characters, they use puppetry as well.
Yes.
in this production. It's very colourful, it's very dynamic. It's got the essence of Africa with the animals. It's really, really, really magical to watch. And this particular scene, The Circle of Life, where Raviki presents Simba to the whole congregation of animals, it's so like, wow. You feel like you're in the animated film, literally. So this is one of the best, when it comes to set design and when it comes to really like an enjoyable musical piece, it's one of the best productions I've seen.
Yes.
So
yes.
I think loads of people would really enjoy this. It's great for the family.
Yes.
So
I've seen it, and I've seen it with my children. In fact, I went with my children and my nieces, and it really is the wow factor.
It's wow. Yeah.
But in that same summer, we went to see The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. And it was actually in one of those tents, you know, those ones that the CGIs are all over.
Yeah.
So you feel as if you're in the forest when you had the forest scene.
Yeah.
And my children much preferred that. So did I. Isn't that funny?
Really?
I loved The Lion King. We liked it, but we much preferred The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe because, like you said about you feel as if you're part of it.
Yeah.
Because it was a tent, you're definitely part of it. You couldn't
more
get away.
intimate as well,
More
isn't
intimate.
it? Yeah.
And they use the CGI all over.
Yeah.
So at one stage, my little girl was, oh, I feel sick, because you felt as if you're going
But imagine
through the woods.
if Lion King was like that.
That would be
Oh
frightening.
my gosh.
Oh, that would be so frightening.
It would
Wouldn't
be too much
With all those
excitement.
animals as well coming so close to
Coming
you.
after you, the lions and Uncle Scar, like, oh my gosh.
But
But
15 years already, that's incredible.
yeah, it's been running for 15 years. So
Goodness
I actually I've seen this quite a while ago, like about 4 years ago.
Right.
And it's just, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So is it the Lyceum or the Lyceum?
Lyceum, yeah, whatever you want to call it.
It'll be there for a
showing
long time to come as well, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for
definitely.
that. And your next review, please.
My next review is Matilda.
Oh, right. Roald Dahl.
So, yeah, this hasn't been out as long as The Lion King. Oh, that's so funny, that picture.
Yeah.
And so it's written by Dennis Kelly, and the music is actually done by Tim Mitchell, the comedian. British comedian Tim Mitchell?
No.
Do you know?
No.
He has long hair, like he sometimes wears eyeliner, and he's got the really intelligent, sarcastic humour.
Okay.
Yeah, he actually wrote for music, and he done the music and the lyrics. So it's so funny because it's actually really cleverly written.
Yes.
And Elise Blake is played by Matilda, and you've got Miss Honey.
played by Elise Blake.
Oh, Matilda's played by Elise Blake.
Yes.
Sorry, you know why I might have thought of that? Because of the fact that I didn't really think she played Matilda very well.
Oh.
I didn't think she carried the character very
Yes.
well, but Miss Trunchbull, which is played by Az Goldman,
Yes. There she is.
incredible throughout the whole production.
Yeah.
And the cast is amazing, the children's cast. They are so talented.
Yeah.
And actually, the Royal Shakespeare Company has something to do with this production as well. So you can really see it with the choreography, the technique, the dialogue.
Yeah.
It's very sharp, very in your face. The set design's like a pop-up book, like Roald Dahl.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really funny from the very opening to the very end. It's just so in your face.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, Matilda's one of our favourite Roald Dahl books. One of my favourite, from like children. But so Matilda's on where?
It's showing at the Cambridge Theatre.
Okay, and that is definitely Cambridge, not Cambridge.
Not Cambridge, Cambridge, not the university.
That'll be a long way coming as well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and so what did you like about it? It was just because it was just a classic Roald Dahl book.
You know what? They captured the film really well. You know, some of the scenes, like with Miss Trunchbull, and she gets the girl's pigtails and she swings her around.
Yes.
They done that scene, and it was so funny. And they used like this rag doll, and then they had a blackout, and then you saw the little girl just fall off from the top of the stage all the way down, and it was so hilarious. It's just the way, I think the characterisation is so strong in this, and kids will love it, and families as well.
I'm sure. Brilliant. Okay, that's Matilda at the Cambridge Theatre. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
So from theatre, we have books. How are you doing, Tricia?
I'm fine, I'm well. It's good to hear sort of a film. The play has come from a book as well, and people reading and bringing that alive. That's fascinating. The book I'm going to talk about now is called Pepper Seed by Malika Booker. One of the things I'm going to do this year, New Year's resolution, is to read more poetry. I struggle a bit with poetry, but I've decided I'm going to have a go at it. And
why do you think you struggle?
I think it's a different way of reading. It's a different way of taking in the words. And also, I think if you see poetry performed, I think you can never quite read it off the page. So there's that gap between hearing it and seeing what, the sounds and the nuances and not being sure whether or not you get it quite right.
Yes.
But having said that, Pepper Seed by Malika Booker is an amazing book. She's in Britain, but her family background is Caribbean. She's half Ghanaian, BG, as we say, West Indians say BG, and Grenadian. And she's telling a story through her poetry of her life and her family life through the Caribbean and coming to Britain and Brixton and Brooklyn. And it's described as, the series, which is her first collection, it is described as being quite raw. It's like putting a chili in a raw wound. So it's quite powerful stuff. Yeah, it's quite sort of strong stuff that she's actually writing about. But nonetheless, a great collection. I think it's got a beautiful cover and well worth having a look at. I was given it by my copy given by Bernadine Evaristo, the kind of writer of Mr. Loverman, and she's a great supporter of Malika's, and she recommended it as her read of last year, of 2013. So I think with that kind of support, I think it's well worth supporting.
Isn't it? I love the cover as well.
The other thing to say is actually it's published by a British publisher called People Tree, who are based in Leeds, and they specialise in publishing the books of Caribbean kind of Black British writers. So definitely a publisher to look out for, because I think the publishing side of things, very few Black British publishers in just generally, so well worth supporting them and looking out for anything they do.
They actually focus on Black Caribbean writers, do they?
Yes, here and there. Here, Black British and Caribbean writers there. Really so it's a good, do look out their work, because it's excellent stuff. But this is a beautiful set of poetry, and I think Malika, if she's performing or anything, it's well worth going to see her perform.
And if anyone can actually get you into reading poetry, Malika can.
It will be this work. Yes, I'd love to hear more about the Caribbean and to have it written up in rhyme and contemporary rhyme. I think is important work. So good.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. And your next book?
I'm sticking with the Caribbean. This is Eric Walrond. He's a Harlem Renaissance writer from the 20s, 30s. And this was the only collection that he did, short stories. And he is sort of written in this moment, sort of slavery had ended 100 years before, but it was still 40 years to independence. So in that time period, this is a time when they were building the Panama Canal. And he had quite a sort of particular kind of upbringing. But so he was in sometime in Panama with his father, so he learnt Spanish, and then he was in Barbados with his mother, and he was sort of ended up moving around the islands, and then he ended up in New York, and it's the Harlem Renaissance. And he tells the story, the Caribbean Harlem Renaissance type story, because often when people talk about the Harlem Renaissance, you think of Jean Toomer or sort of other, I can't think of a name, it's going to come to me, Zora Neale Hurston. You think of the American, normally the Harlem Renaissance is the African-American story, but Eric Walren tells the Caribbean story during this time. And these are short stories, and I know a lot of people think, oh, I'm not going to get my money's worth if it's lots of short stories, but actually, these are quite moving. Yeah, these are quite moving stories. He was inspired by Mark Twain, so what he wanted to do was tell the stories in the voice, in the accent and the patois. And he writes in that style as well, and they're, some of them quite tough stories, but they're moving, and it's just, to hear, he writes with the Barbadian lilt, and then another story will have a Jamaican lilt, and, and he really knows the difference between those kind of accents, or some of them will be set in Panama, and, and it's the Caribbean spirit of, yes, slavery has ended, life is tough, but we're going to travel around and we're going to try and make work and lives and earn some money. And I think that's one of the things everybody thinks, that people just came to England, in the 40s, but actually people moved around the island. My family still moves around the island now. And this is an important collection. He died, actually he's buried in Stoke Newington, as it happens. But this is the only collection of his work of that period. And I wrote about it on my blog, and an academic in New York has contacted me to say he's writing his biography. So actually there's going to be another book about the whole of his life and what happened, and telling the story.
Oh, he died.
He's died. He's Stoke Newington.
You mentioned that he wrote in patois. So now I'm thinking, if you're not from the Caribbean, would we be able to understand it? Would I be able to understand it? Do you think?
I think it's worth the effort. And I think, I mentioned Mark Twain. Mark Twain is not an easy read, because it's written in that sort of way. So make the effort. Yes. I just think, people should, just because it's Caribbean type style of accent, I think. Yeah. And I think you will be rewarded, because they are amazing stories, and they're sort of spirited stories.
And it's interesting how you said how he knows all the different nuances between the different Caribbean islands, and he writes in those different nuances as well. That in itself is challenging, isn't it? That's great.
Yeah. That can educate us as well, really, regarding the different
I think that's a short story collection well worth looking out for.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so Tropic Death, Eric Walrun, who's from the Caribbean but now has been buried in Stoke Newington. Do you know what?
To England.
Yes. So when did they come to England?
Oh, I can't quite remember.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
No, edit that out. I can look it up and say it differently.
The Caribbean, I suppose, books here today, haven't we? All about the Caribbean, which is all good. And hopefully you can talk about the Africans. We feel left out. Yeah. Well, you did that in the last episode, all the same. Thank you so much for that, both of you. Okay, now her voice has been described as a delicious, creamy vibe, rich, velvety, and warms the inside like a spot of tea. It gives me great pleasure to say that Hil Street Soul will be right here after the break. This is not to be missed.